Did everyone sign that paper of being responsible for yourself when we go down into the first bottom floor? This floor is a little shaky for the fire dance, and so if we lose a few of you in this workshop, it was nice knowing you. Yeah. In trying to not just to capture, but to take in the various feelings and thoughts of what it is to be Irish. It's not something that any foreigner can do. No foreigner can do that. No matter how long you live here, you can't. And whether you live out in the away from the city, or you get incorporated into any particular family, there's no matter how many years you live here, you cannot really be Irish. It's impossible. And as it is for any culture or any time. And yet, when any particular person, whether you are Irish or you come from another country and you observe the people, they are no doubt very different than I've known and watched a few Russians. I have watched a few Algerians, and a lot of French, a lot of German, a lot of Americans, and an awful lot of Indians. And I've observed the Spanish. They all walk differently, very different. Their faces are different. The way they hold their composure is different. Their persona is different. Their faces really show the mass differences, and especially once the voice starts to come out, how we can see the vast differences. And it's just not how we all speak differently, not just the tone or the slant of a certain particular syllable, but it's where actually that voice is coming from, where it is emanating from. The human mind, the human body, and the vast worlds that live inside each of us is, we've all tried, every culture has tried to capture it. And some cultures have been able to draw it as much as possible, as close as possible, and as a result we have a lot of philosophies. And as a result we have a lot of different ways of viewing not just the mind, but the various religions. And if you are born under a particular flag, it is hard to capture anything else but what that flag is going to teach you. And as you know, Ireland has been under the flag of a particular philosophy, or call it a religion, and as it is with all countries. And whether that flag is shamanism, or Catholicism, or Buddhism, it is still a flag. And it's hard for any child to go against that, but to absorb it. It is because the parents have adopted it. And once the parents have adopted it, most kids are going to easily adopt it also. This is a very, you could say there's a lot of goodness in this. And in some cases, it has not been so profitable, so to speak, as far as healthiness when it comes to a nation. And sometimes a whole nation goes through a whole turnover. And there's a phenomenon here in Ireland that really doesn't happen often in any century. And that is what has happened with the turnover of a particular philosophy that has swept Ireland for over 1,000 years. And now it has been uprooted. And the people today are having to look into other directions. Call it disappointment, actually. It's a great disappointment, and it's a great hurt. And hurt and disappointment is something that creates the head to turn into another direction, but where to turn to. And wherever that compass goes, you never know what is headed into that direction. And everyone is looking for so-called truth. And this is what we have been brainwashed to do, to look for truth. And truth seems to be a very good idea. And it has a lot of wonderful rings to it, so to speak. And truth sounds so delightful. It has such beautiful colors, and it's something that everyone basically aspires to. But the one thing that all people throughout the world, and so many people, they don't put enough thought into really what truth is. And once a person puts enough thought into really what the mind is, because most people don't put much thought into that either. Somehow it's to follow the impulse. Follow the impulse, like the impulse of hunger, the impulse of a feeling, the impulse of a desire, the impulse of a want. And because these particular impulses they really run the show. But somehow we don't associate this from a chemical basis. We don't associate this from a biological basis. We associate this as me and myself and I. It's my want. It's my desire. This is what I want, so therefore it is good. And yet basically, you could say, just DNA organized. It's DNA already prophesized. It is DNA already well designed that leads us into these various directions. And then when it comes to a very elusive matter, when it comes to a very elusive element that scientists have been trying to pin down, trying to put under a microscope, is you could say, the element of what mind is. We cannot find it in the brain. We cannot find it in our toes. We cannot even find it in the heart. We look for it in the various organs, and all we find are just everything, just like everything else, just different matter. And whether that matter consists of brain matter, or muscle of the heart, or various other tissues that comprise of the various organs, the mind is something that you could say is relative according to your own needs. The mind is relative according to your own wants and your own desires and your own philosophy. It is very difficult for human beings to be a real scientist, to be totally objective and not subjective. It is very difficult for scientists to really stand aside, kind of like pull away from their persona, from their ideas, from their hurt and disappointment basically, from their agendas, and stand aside and take a look at it objectively and not identify with it. The human being, the human mind, is a very strange phenomenon. But in order to really understand what flag we are living under, or what flag we are thrown away into the ocean, and then start to pull out a compass and to look into what direction we are going to go, and what would be best for me. What would be best not just for me in 5 years, but be best for my family, be best for my heart, be best for my mind. And in essence, there's a very strange, you could say, science that most people do not pay attention to because the association of a gorilla, the association of the monkey, this scares people. When people think gorilla and monkey, most people get very scared or very irate because it is very, you could say, associated with a human being. No one wants to be categorized under that category. And yet, it is very much that the monkey and gorilla, they pretty well have much the same, almost the same amount of genes that we do. We don't have that many more. The only difference is, and you could say the only saving grace, is that we have a larger capacity of brain matter, so we can think a little bit differently. And as a result, it has caused an awful lot of problems, actually, to have a larger brain capacity. It has caused an awful lot of problems. For even though it's pulled us out of the jungles and out of the deserts, it has literally caused many, many wars on this planet. It has caused not just World War I and II, but it caused a great deal of arguments, murder. It has caused a great deal of suicides. For far too many young people today commit suicide. It's really the result of having too much brain matter, actually. For the price to pay to have a will, for the price to pay for any particular species to have a free will is a very high price to pay. And to understand this high price, for it is just not to, our purpose is to go out and to get a job and to make money and to pay the bills and to look good in front of our neighbors and to somehow have enough self-esteem so we feel good about our own feet and feel good about our own face and the size of our bodies and even the way we speak. For anyone can live out a lifetime. Anyone can. People on the streets do it quite easily. People in hospitals, doctors, airline pilots, people who pick up trash, painters and plumbers, businessmen, CEOs, managers and employees, mothers and fathers. Anyone can live out a life. For all you have to do is get up in the morning. For anyone that can actually even pick up a compass, and anyone can walk in any particular direction. And naturally, if you are walking into that direction, it must be correct. It must be right because you're walking it. And that constitutes the rationale of any particular mind. But the one thing that most people do not pay attention to is not just the phenomenon of mind and self, which cannot be discovered, cannot be found, but can only be utilized. And even though we cannot find that tool chest, we cannot locate where it's at, we're constantly in communication and using that communication from morning till night and even in our dreams. The will that has been given to, you could say, a species that has the largest brain capacity on this planet. And to really look at it, not just a citizen of Ireland, not just a citizen of Angola or the Congo or Russia or China or America, but as a citizen of yourself. For you see, the compass cannot just be something that can be pulled out of one's pocket and decide where to go. For too many people want too many quick answers. Too many people want too many answers associated, you could say, with an appropriate thinking of how our school system has taught all children, all kids, and basically inappropriate pride. For to have the gift of a free will and to find some means and some way to tap into it, to know what this is about. It wasn't given to you by your mother or by your father. It wasn't given to you by your grandparents. It was given to you by something even far more, let's say, elusive than the mind. It was given to you by something quite unique. And that is what has created you. All people within a parameter, call it an ocean, call it a river, call it a line drawn on the sand or the mountains. But all nations are usually caught within themselves. And yet one really has to wonder, you may be Irish now, but what will you be 5 days after you pass away? Will you still be Irish? Will you be Russian? Will you be Indian? Will you be American? Will you be Swiss? We have all been taught to somehow look ahead into our lives. And yet somewhere along the line, we pick up a book, we hear a conversation. Somewhere along the line, we have some marvelous thought, some marvelous idea that erupts for some unknown reason, not knowing what it is, that creates these light bulbs to go off in our head or in our hearts. Then all of a sudden, there's no more light. And to find the light switch, that's the adventure. To find who turns off the light and who turns it on. How come my will disappears and how come my will appears? How come I feel good one day and how come I feel lousy the next? How come I'm so positive about you and now I hate you? And this is the real adventure of oneself. We have found that it's so easy to point the finger and to blame things on so many other people and so many other events. And yet when one takes a deep breath, one wonders, who took the breath for me? And then that very elusive word called truth. And yet when you count in the phenomenon of mind, when you count in agendas, and you start to understand what it is to rationalize. Truth is rationalized according to one's needs. Truth is rationalized according to how one thinks. And if one really thinks about it, to be really honest with yourself, you have to put truth, put it away, throw it in the trash. It cannot be used. To understand what it is to be a real human being, it cannot be used. The mysteries of life are mysteries to 99.99% of the population. And they will continue to be nothing but mysteries to so many people. Because of basically not really understanding oneself, one's mind, what free will is, and what does a flag really mean. For the emphasis and focus on failure, feeling bad, things not working out the way I want it to, somehow takes a front end posture. If you find that I'm speaking too fast for you to keep up, it's okay. Don't be concerned. If it's too difficult for you to keep up with it all, do not be concerned. Do not leave your posture. Just be steady. Your mind may not be able to grasp it, but your heart does. And in time, your heart can educate your mind. For to be on this island at this particular time in history, it's a very rare and a very precious event, actually. You're very, very fortunate, extremely fortunate. Because there has been a turnover, there has been an upset, there has been a revolution, a very quiet revolution, but a revolution that is severe. Because this revolution, if you really hunt it down, it runs deep inside everyone's mind, deep inside everyone's heart. For to change oneself, it's almost impossible. For you need to find some way to have access deep inside your heart and deep inside your mind to change the code inside, to change the pictures, to change the initial imprints, to change what has literally cemented everybody into their own posture, into their own mentality. And because there has been a turnover, and because there is a revolution, quiet but severe, that revolution actually goes down for over 1,000 years. And every Irish person, this is your access in, this quiet revolution. It's like finding that wire that runs all the way down to the base of your spine. And somehow it can make you feel lost, and somehow a little insecure, and somehow there's a relief. But now, what flag to pick up? And I say, do not pick up any flag. And now one looks for another philosophy to hang on to, and I say, do not look for another philosophy. Don't grasp. Don't dig your fingernails into anything. Because now, in essence, you have been basically, most of you have been set free. For you see, there is a very strange, wonderful way that the body has literally worked itself. But the body is really well designed. And to have two separate brains, separated, one left and one is right, one that dances and one that thinks, one that plays and one that knows math quite well. We all have chosen sides, to be on the good side or the bad side, to be wonderful or to be terrible. We all have chosen sides, to love or to hate. We all have chosen sides, to be on the poor side or the rich side. And very funny thing, I wonder if this is what we have done to our own brain too. That is, I decide to stay on the left side and not cross a bridge into the north side or into the south side. When we have access to both sides, when both sides are us. It is the human being itself that literally creates segregation. It is a human being themselves that literally starts to create a hierarchy because it makes them feel comfortable, wonderful, and good. And that is because there are tall trees and small trees, and that is because there are very tall mountains and very small hills. And that is because there are people that are taller and people that are not so tall. And that is because there are people with small mentalities and people with very large mentalities. And that is because there are people that are happy and people that are not happy. And so people, because of this ignorance, they continue along this same line of philosophy to create boundaries and walls and to stay in the left brain or to stay in the right, and then to discount your right hand and then to discount your left hand. And then one wonders what really is it to be a whole human being? What is it to really be one? When we literally segregate our towns, segregate our people, segregate our own selves from ourselves. And I wonder, if I pass away, do I leave my left brain behind and just take my right? Or do I take my left brain with me? I wonder what I do. Do I look at you just with one eye? Do I just want to kiss you with the one half of a lip? I do not wish to touch you with my left hand, or maybe it's my right. And if one really thinks about it, for math, geometry, numbers, counting sticks and stones, there's really something to that. It is a very real science, not just of science and not just of nature, but really of spirit. Everything does count up. Everything does matter. All your fingers really do count. And you do the data, you do the math, and you assess your life. Figure out how far you have come. After all these years, after all these full moons. And when the math does not add up, does not show itself, that means the thinking is wrong, the direction is wrong, the philosophies are wrong, the ideas are wrong, the thinking is basically off. The logic doesn't work. But if one really looks around, what did you do to get here to sit in this chair? What did you do to get here to have your life? What did you have to do? Now, I'm not talking whether you are a banker, you're a tailor. I'm not talking whether you are a dancer or whether you are an optician. You do not know, actually, how you got here. You have no idea how you got here. Other than that one fateful night when that young woman and that young man got together, and whether you were conceived of lust or love. That's the only logical, reasonable answer to know that's how you got here. But yet somehow, if you really learn to understand what it is that the sky is, to really understand what the earth is, to understand really what the language of the trees, the crickets, the frogs, the fish, the clouds, even the slight breezes, to even hear the drumming heartbeat of the earth. For somehow the worlds that are considered invisible are only invisible to those who cannot see. But to have and to use that free will to use the courage, to use the adventure, to use the feet and use the eyes, what they were designed for. A book cannot teach you. Your own thinking cannot teach you. Your own experiences cannot teach you. Not even your dreams. It is only then that the mystic finally arises out of the light and finds themselves in the darkness of night, either led by a candlelight or by starlight. It is only then that you can finally find the mystic inside you. Truth is no longer necessary, for you are that. Truth is no longer used as a crutch. You are that. There's no debate. There's no question. So in essence, what I'm saying to you, Irish people, do not head into another direction. All it is just another direction. Do not head into another philosophy. That's all it is, just another flag and another philosophy that eventually you'll have to shed. Life already is. You were already born. For life simply is. That means you have to encompass and embrace all the baggage, everything inside your flesh, everything that your skin retains, the darkness and the light, the scars, the beauty, the joys, the heartaches, the disappointments, the laughter, all the jokes, all the parties, all the loneliness, all the desperation. You have to embrace it all inside and to claim it all to the point that you can put it right into your eyes without speaking it, and yet your eyes will speak it. If you cannot know yourself today, truly what it is to be that human being, you basically are going to have a very difficult time knowing who you are going to be tomorrow. If you do not know where your feet are today, it's going to be very difficult to know where your feet are going to be tomorrow. But if you have a better idea about yourself today, you're going to have a much better idea about yourself tomorrow. To wake up to what the mind is, and how it basically encompasses all individuals, locked within a bubble, constantly reflecting upon yourself and can never get out of your jail of glass. No one is here with a prison sentence. No one is here because you're bad. No one is here because you're good. No one is here because you've done something wrong, and no one is here because you've done something right. Put down your weapons, put down your ignorance, put down your fears, put down your doubt. For if one just thinks about it just a little bit, you have the earth beneath your feet, and yet this third planet from the sun is traveling 486,000 miles per hour through space. Yet it seems very still. Yet it seems that an Ireland really does not move. And yet you're traveling very, very fast into some direction. You are not being propelled out into space. A very good mother, you could say, gravity is holding you down, keeping you down, just long enough until your lungs can no longer breathe, until you finally have to lay your body to rest. Then not even gravity can hold you down. Neutralize the acid in your body. Neutralize the calcium in your body. It is our blood afflicted with too much acid or too much alkaline. It is our thoughts afflicted with too much grayness, too much shadows, or too much ineffective light. Neutralize your hurt and your disappointment. Neutralize your doubt. And just find and just realize and follow yourself and do the math and do the data. And you'll find by the end of the day, you'll find yourself still with your head on a pillow. You made it. There's really very little you had to do, just a few decisions here and there. It's okay. You're okay. And whether people disappointed you or loved you, you're still okay. Whether you have no friends or lots of friends, you're still okay. Life is such a miracle, but somehow most of the people in society has pushed it into the realm of the mystics. And to rediscover this cave, to rediscover this darkness, to rediscover this light, one has to really rediscover oneself. You do not have to cut your hair. You do not have to change your style of clothes. You do not have to learn a new language. For truly the only intelligence you need, the intelligence to buy bread and milk, that's all you need. You do not need to learn a new prayer or a new mantra. You have your heart. You have your own voice. Life has given you 2 good legs with feet. Plenty of toes to balance you as you walk or stand. Life has given you 10 good fingers to swing from branch to branch if you wish, or to write very conclusive contracts, letters of disgust or letters of love. Life has given you 2 good eyes, like telescopes or microscopes, to be used if you wish, to see the negatives of people and of this planet, or to see the goodness of people if you wish. What more do you want? It is really an act of will. It's an act of will. Let life be. It was here before you, and it's not going to change even when you leave. Just let it be. Then you'll find that the bridges between your left brain and right brain can be rediscovered. And one day when your blood is neutralized, and one day when your organs are neutralized, and one day when the firing of your brain is firing correctly and not misfiring with misthoughts, misinformation, misdreams, miswords, or mishopes. You will discover that your left hand and your right hand, how they can both hold the world, both hold your life, how they can hold another person. It really does take both. Let no one fool you. There's no one greater than you, and there's no one lesser than you. Don't let nobody fool you. You're fine as you are. Let no one fool you otherwise. And when the acid has been reduced enough, it's no longer creating impulses for you to think like this, or to act like this, or to dream like this, or to be like this. What a breath of fresh air to have spontaneity starting to walk with you every moment, no matter what you do. If the branches of a tree are crooked, so am I. If the trunk of a tree is straight, so am I. If the clouds have many shapes, so am I. If the clouds have many faces, so am I. If storms come into my island, so am I. If sunshine shines on my island, so am I. If nothing is happening, so am I. If I hear laughter, so am I. Be versatile, be pliable, be amiable, be like rubber, be like a blade of grass, be the wind, be like a mountain, be firm. be like a river, sometimes be like a dam, sometimes be a desert, sometimes be a forest. Be an ocean, be a lake, be a stream, be the Amazon. Be a dark, cloudy day, be a blue sky. This is what a human being really is. We are of nature. When the pretending stops, so does the nightmare. When the pretending stops, so does the loneliness. Peace is education. Peace is understanding. Peace is comprehending. Peace is a great storm. Peace is a quiet day. Peace is a raging river. Peace is a beautiful book. Peace is a glass of beer. Peace is a hairbrush. Peace, some wonderful earrings. Peace, some rosy cheeks. Peace, being lost. Peace, know where I am. Peace, the sound of rubber on a street. Peace, a lock of a door. Peace, understanding directions. Peace, running out of petrol. Peace, a little too late. Peace, a little blink. Peace, somehow can find the answer. Peace, somehow I know. Peace, to be at peace with it all, not just in the morning and not just in a church, to be at peace with it all. Is peace. Whether it is a murder or suicide or war, peace, I do not understand, is peace. And you're honest with yourself. Peace. Know what you know and know it well. Know what you do not know and know it very well. Peace. Peace. Be at peace with yourself. Peace. 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 Peace to your mind. Peace to your hearts. Peace to your life. Are we going to have air conditioning during the fire dance? It's okay then, huh? Get back your life. Get back your life. The only real relationship there really is between you and your Creator. It's no one else's business. You get back your life. There's no greater book than the book of your own heart. There's really nothing more alive than your own heart. Know your heart. Know your heart. Let's dance. You know, there was a moment for a while there that I thought I understood for a moment there. And there was a moment there for a while that it seemed to be correct. And there was a moment there for a while that it seemed to make sense. And there was another moment there for a while that it seemed to be all right. And a lot of time went by, a lot of days went on. A lot of things happened in between. And then all of a sudden there was another moment there where it seemed like it wasn't quite right. And then there was another moment there where everything just seemed to fall into place. And then there was another moment there where somehow I found myself lost. And then more days went on. And more days seemed to all of a sudden go so fast. And it wasn't long before weeks had transpired. And those weeks had mutated into months. And all those months had literally transformed themselves into years. And before long, it was a decade or two. And then there was another moment there where it seemed what was right and what was so good was somehow in the far distance, somehow way as far as the stars. Somehow it would take a very long telescope to see what it was that I was so sure about so long ago. And there was another moment there where somehow I could grasp the fringes of it, where I could barely touch the tail of that picture, of that sensation, of those experiences, just for a moment there. And then there was another moment where there was a slight breeze and it took it away. And somehow there was no way to recollect, to pull in. Somehow there was no way to put it back into my pocket and take it to school, take it to work. There was no way I could stick it in my pillowcase and sleep on it. Just for a moment there. And then somehow days all of a sudden start to unwind. And pretty soon those days had turned into weeks. And somehow I was counting off the hour and counting off the weeks. And in time, it was months. The significance of 9 months, the significance of 3 months, the significance of 10. And it wasn't long before another decade had elapsed. And just for a moment there, so far away. Not just counting the birthday candles, and not just counting the years, too many days to count, but just for a moment there, somehow it seemed so clear, and yet so far. And yet the moments are not even the same anymore. For after living so many decades, we all have found the alchemy of injecting time into a moment and elongating it, stretching it like a rubber band. And the moments all of a sudden have layers and layers of history, and all these moments have no longer spontaneity. The spark of spontaneity, no longer it exists. And now we have nails driven into the moment with words that were said, stories that were lived, hurt and pain and joy that somehow stuck like glue on our foreheads. And that hypodermic needle injecting time into it, injecting history into it, like a line, a new line below our eyes, a new line on the forehead, a new line across the lips. But maybe not a line of time, maybe not a line of age, but maybe it is a line of stress. Maybe it is a line of injecting too many needles into our moments, into our life. But for a moment there, it seemed like I had it in my hand, just for a moment there. And when I looked, the water had evaporated, the paper had been burned, the dust had been blown away, the experienced, the grain of sand has rolled off my hand. Just for a moment there, I had it. Alchemist, be careful how you count your time. Alchemist, be careful what lines you consider lines of age versus lines of stress. Alchemist, do not try to control your moments. And even though the addiction is strong to inject it every day, that to control your life, to control your feelings, to control time. Just for a moment there. Just for a moment there. A moment like a thought is not a butterfly that can be captivated by a net of your feelings, a net of your thoughts, a net of your expectations. It's very much like light that travels, bounces off curtains and carpets, ceilings and walls, foreheads and noses, every strand of hair, bounces off water, and even bounces off words and pictures traveling through the air, bounces off microwave waves and even radio waves. And these moments actually exist within you, within the framework of your mind. No matter how many boxes you have in your mind or how much space, Just take note. Think about it. Contemplate it just a little bit. Do not try to drive these moments down another street, another alley, where the moments will literally show what you have done with them, injecting your own ingredient of a designer's drug to control how things really should be, or ought to be, or better be. Without the moment, there would never be any dinosaurs. Without their moment, there could never be any water. Without their moment, there could never be oxygen as we know it. Without their moment, there can never be a sun as we know it. And without the moment, there can never ever be laughter. Without the moment, no joy could ever show up. Without the moment, we could never meet a friend walking around a wall. Without the moment, there could never be tomorrows. Without the moment, there could never be a tear that all of a sudden arises for no certain reason. Without the moment, where would I be? Put the hypodermic needles away. Put your well-designed papers and formulas away. And just learn to be a witness. Just learn to watch. Just watch your life. It is the moments that really opens up the opportunities for new situations to come to you. All I do is really watch the show. That's all I do. I do not try to manipulate my dreams, not even my hopes. For life really knows what it is doing. It's just that sometimes we get in the way. There was a moment there where I thought I understood. You see, life is really just one big moment. And if one just thinks about it just a little bit, just 5 days after you pass away, you will see that that whole lifetime, whether it consisted of 9 seconds or 90 years, is really just but a moment. All the days compressed, all the experiences compressed, all that time compressed so easily, so quietly into a moment. For the whole day, how easily it transpires itself. We do not have to guide it. And yet truly understand the difference between what belongs to this earth. The cars is that you have to drive. The buses and the trains, you have to drive that though. It is you who lay down the track, not life. It is you who lay down the parameters and the distances, not life. You. And therefore, you become the driver. It is like you are the one who got pregnant. It is like you who became the father. It was your decision. Then it is then that you become the driver. It is then that you have to pay attention to the signs as you walk and drive out your life. It is you that have to take the precautions of safety. Or what is it really? Is it safety of the body? Is it safety of fear? Is it safety of mind? It is the safety of one's spirit. And what is that fine line that separates between us and what is that spirit inside? Usually it takes bouncing off the walls. Usually it takes making lots of mistakes. Usually it takes a scar, or sometimes many. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. But for a moment there, for a moment, and how 30 years went by so quickly, how 15 years easily appeared. How 25 years all of a sudden just showed up. How 55 all of a sudden just knocked on my door. When I see an old man, I see a young boy. When I see a young girl, I see an old lady. kind of like an illusion. How we switch the roles from youth to age, and then again from age to youth. And yet somehow along the way, the body eventually somehow cannot hold up. Sometimes it is just the attitude, and sometimes it's just the, you could say, more biological, more chemical based. That the design of the DNA is too difficult to overcome. And sometimes the bones will weaken and get a little too brittle, as it is with our thoughts, and sometimes as it is even with our luck. And sometimes there's so much resilience, it's so easy to bend. One wonders, what is that formula? What is it to hold the two? It is the very nature of your life itself that shows you your predicament of your internal environment and your external environment. It is how that external world comes to you. It is how that external world feeds. Not just feeds you with food and drink, but feeds you with lack of companionship, lack of friendship, or friendship, or much love. It is how the words come to you and in what tone. It is how the light appears to you from morning till night. It is really what your ears are hearing, but it is also really the nature of your internal speaker, of your thoughts and of your feelings. We have so many clues and so many ways and means to see what our predicament is, to see what is really in our way. But how easily we had it when we were so young. Had no forethought of to control or to inject our moments, or start to paint over them, whitewash them, or start to trade them off for someone else's moments who seemed that their moments were better than yours, like trading cards. And when we start to understand profit and gain, then we were looking for means to sell our moments, to sell ourselves, or to buy someone else. And then after so many years, how easy the addiction became to inject it with what I think it should be. We can blame it on the flag, we can blame it on the parents, we can blame it on humanity, you can blame it on a wall, whatever you wish. It is really nothing more than just another species, having another day, another lifetime, another century, on a planet that is traveling through space, just learning to cope with nature and survive. How long does it take for a culture to have a toilet? How long does it take for a culture to understand a toothbrush? How long does it take for a culture to have invented a pencil and paper? How long does it take any particular culture to stop the war with a neighbor or another land? And then how long does it take to stop the war inside your own head? How long? For all these can be categorized and labeled into certain elements of moments. A moment in my life, a moment in that day, to take a picture of this, to take a picture of that, to paint this and to paint that. So I will not be lonely. So it's something that I could have in my pocket, so it's something that I could claim. And yet each generation will pass like any storm. And yet each century will easily, like a breeze, so easily go by and not even notice the wind. And yet after somewhat what they think is 5 billion years on this planet, all but a moment. All but a moment. And yet how we have been taught to think 1,000 years ago, so long ago, and it's not. It's really but a moment. As it is for 10,000 or 100,000 or even a million. All but a moment. And one day, 100 million years into the future, it would also be but a moment. And I wonder what I would think then. I wonder what I would be like then. Be careful what you do with your butterfly nets. And to either pin these butterfly wings with needles and collect them like we can collect books, collect trash, collect pictures, collect people, collect money. That's what we can do. Or to sell the butterflies that we have collected so delicately, the wings, so wonderful and so colorful, the wings. Thoughts cannot be traded like baseball cards or football cards. As it is for feelings and as it is for a life. For your wings are your hands, your wings are your hair, and your wings sometimes are even your eyes when they're bright. Your wings are your heart, and your wings are the nature of your mind. And somehow, all that lives under the sun knows where the sun is. All creatures know. Even when the clouds come and it makes the day so dark, all creatures know. And in that moment, a net is not needed. And in that moment, do not try to paint your destiny or your fate. Do not try to be so clever with your colors that you choose. For your destiny and your fate, you could say, is you sitting in the chair. For it has brought you here onto this life of yours. And somehow you found yourself existing in what we call the year 2001. And for another culture, it's over the year of 5,000 and some. And for another culture, it is over 10,000 and some. And for another culture, it is really the year of 346,000 and some. And for another culture, it is millions and millions. It's your perspective. But I can say to you, whether it is the year 2001, it has taken you many, 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 many lifetimes for you to be you. A hard climb, a very difficult walk it is. For every day counted, every sunset made a big difference. And it will take many, many, many more for you to really understand. For how any village, any culture requires so much attention to pay our bills, to work, so many stores to look into, and so many faces to look at along the streets, so many stories to listen to, so much time taken out to eat and to sleep. We spend so much time waiting in line. We spend so much time daydreaming. We spend a lot of time drinking. We spend a lot of time with our worries and our concerns. We spend a great deal of our time in labor. We spend so much time sleeping. And I wonder Once we put the formula together and start to add it all up, what would the data look like? How much real quality time? How much really quality time into realizing the real nature of existence, of life? Why a heart? Why a mind? Why birth and why passing away? Why laughter and why crying? Why getting lost and why found? Why my father and why my mother? Why this big bill and why that disappointment? Why such a beautiful sky and why the clouds? And why all the rain and why the heat? Why the unlucky and why the fortunate? Why is there a north end and why is there a south end? Why do I live in the north and why do you live in the south? Why a river separates and why I forgot to brush my teeth? Why do my bones ache? Why is my shirt dirty? Why do I have to do this? And why can I not remember? Why? Why must I close my eyes? Why must I be ignorant? Why am I in love? Why? For you see, all this lives in the moment of existence. And when one starts to turn one's head, when one starts to turn one's heart and one's mind into what's always been there in front of you, what has always laid itself out every moment. And no matter how clever you may be, it was always there. So simple, it's complicated. So simple, it's invisible to see. And then we easily make an excuse. We categorize it into the mysteries, into the mystic. We throw it into the night, so we cannot see it. And yet it does live in the night, paradoxically, and yet it lives in the day, paradoxically. And yet that paradox has to be transcended. And one will truly understand it is not the left brain or right. It is not the day or the night. It is not the late. It is not the early. It is not the youth, and it's not the age. Life just is. Sitting in this chair, 33 or 83, 13 or 9, 26 or 37, 47, 13. Life just is. When I see a young girl, I see an old lady. When I see an old man, I see a young boy. For a moment there, I thought you understood. For a moment there, I thought you were awake. For a moment there. And yet the seer of the moment knows that it is the whole day that is the moment. It is the nanosecond, it is the second, it is the minute, it is the hour. It is the morning, it is the afternoon, it is the evening, it is the night, it is the twilight. It is a 24-hour, it is a 48-hour, it is the week, it is the month, it is the year, it is the decade, it is the century, it is the millennium. It's all but a moment. And every moment is to wait for the conditions to be correct. To say a word, to act, to speak, to move. And just wait for the moment. A child cannot be born just because you want it born on this day. A person will not appear in your life just because you want it. Goodness will not come to you just because you hope it should. For it's to wait for the moment of your whole life. Keep your eyes open. And at night when you sleep, you keep your dream eye open and wait. Be a guard of your moments. Be a guard. Peace to your minds. Peace to your hearts. Peace to your life. For a moment there, I was silent. Let's take a break. Am I on? Yeah. Administration. We have to do administration. Oh, we got a few more empty seats here to fill. Quite a few. Okay, let's hold off with administration and let's just bite some time here. Some questions? Yes?
What language are you speaking when you...
Indian. Indian.
Your own language?
Yeah. My own language. Yeah. Yeah. That's closest to my heart.
What's the name of the language?
I don't know. I have no idea. No. Too old. Question? Question? Come on. Pardon? What did I say? I said that I think it's time that I go out and find a new job. This job is a little too difficult, getting a little too much. So now I was asking, can anybody offer me a job? But nobody said anything. So I became extreme. I wasn't happy. Yes, there was another question. Yes. Uh-huh. The bones? Yeah. Uh-huh.
That resonates hugely for me as well. But I was wondering how can one access that?
The question was, she pulled a card this morning. It's these cards that are in the back there, and it was that the wisdom of all the ages are in our bones. They're in our bones, people. You know that red blood cells are manufactured in the bones, in our bones. And how can we extract, extrapolate, pull out, sponge out, kick out, lure out, talk out? What else? Dry out? No. Uh-huh. What else can we do? What? Suck out. So I like suck out. Of all the bets, it's suck out. Suck it out, you know? Yeah, and that's what it takes. You got to suck it out. You know, the one thing is, I've always loved chicken bones. And beef, you know, beef. I remember I just sit there and just suck those bones, you know, just suck them dry, you know. That's how I got mine. Hey, I tell you, it's simple. I keep telling you, you know, you got to find your bones, you know, and I toss you guys bones, just suck it out, you know, but you got to have enough patience, you know, before the next distraction comes, and pretty soon you're gone. The bone is left there and you're gone, and with another thought, another idea, another philosophy, you know, you're gone, you know. Just keep sucking that bone, sister. Pardon? Pardon me? Would any old bone do? No, not English bones. I wouldn't suck those bones. Why not? Wait another 100 years. 50 years maybe. Why not? Well, I don't want to say it. Next question. Any English here? Oh, ooh. Well, you know. They know. They know. You can ask them. How do you like my spiritual answers? They're beautiful. Huh? Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Why is it that I can so easily cross the bridge from what is extraordinary to what is ordinary with an answer? Make it appropriate. Make it right in line. Why? It's not just, it's from where I'm coming from, but that's not an answer. Pardon? It's seeing from the bigger perspective, both sides. Yeah. I'm on earth. I'm not in the heavens. I'm not a cloud. I'm a human being. But I had to, you could say, expand my mind to the point that life is more than just being an American Indian. Much more than just having the mind and the perspective of an American Indian. Much more. There's beauty in being an American Indian, but you know what I found out? There's also beauty in being English, German, Russian, Chinese, French, and Irish. Norwegian, Eskimo. But when you begin to understand this, you begin to realize that all cultures, there's all the chaos, and then there's the cream, the top of the mountain, the peak where you get that very fine, pure snow that's not polluted. Do you have the eyes to see the difference? Do you have the discretion to recognize the difference? Is there too much hurt in the way that blinds you to the cream and just pay attention to what is polluted? Or too much inappropriate pride to look outside your borders, outside your home, outside your tradition? There isn't maybe enough adventure in your blood to go out, or enough care. For one really has to care more than just for your life. One has to care more than just for your anger or your disappointment or your hurt. You got to care much more than just for your own life. You have to care so much more of what matters, what really matters. To seek that, follow that out, follow that path out. And no flag can determine that. No philosophy can touch it. No walls can emborder it. It belongs to no tribe, No culture. Your license plate, there's a reason you have numbers on your license plates in your car. There's a reason you have a number on your driver's license. There's a reason. There's a very good reason why you have a particular number outside your house, outside your flat to be located. There's a very good reason why you have a very specific phone number. But know what that is for. But you're not a number. We use numbers. You're not a number. We use numbers. And to break this paradox, really, what is above, so is below. And what is below, so is above. And that's when one decides to really start to look into our shadows, into the shadows of humanity, and not hate it, but learn to understand it. And then one's eyes can look further and further up the mountain to seek out the cream, the pure snow, and understand because of the conditions of evolution, the conditions of technology, the conditions that we are in a transition, the conditions we are not in an enlightened stage at all. We're not even close. We're still in the dark ages, people. We're still coming out of the dark ages. It's just that tremendous inappropriate arrogance. Always wants to keep whatever time you are born in, that has to be pretty close to the enlightened age. It's got to be close because you're here. But to take the astronaut's point of view and to see it for what it is, we are still a long, long, long ways from it. And we are all still very, very ignorant. Then one starts to hold these particular facts and then starts to find an avenue, find a better light, find better reasons, find a better logic. You know, it was about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. I took a little voyage to this mountain, Mount Shasta. It's a high mountain in California. And went up the mountain, and I'm trying to figure it all out. I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to understand it. And I took a lot of trips by myself. And went back into this small town of Shasta and went into this restaurant, and this person who just happened to recognize me, a distant friend. And just so happened that this friend recognized this other friend who is a pilot not of a large commercial jet, but of a small, has his own plane, small one-prop plane, one propeller. And somehow we hit it off real easy. And he invited me immediately, how would you like to take a plane ride and really go see Mount Shasta? And somehow there was something different about this person. And this person had an unusual behavior. This person had bright eyes. This person's every tone, every word, every nuance, every sentence was beautiful. There was a lot of hope in it. So I agree, and it was funny. He completely, he stopped eating his dinner, and when we took off, he just left his dinner because he wanted to go show me. Somehow he saw something in me. He wanted to go show me. He left his dinner. Let's go. And so he's so enthusiastic, and he gets me in this airplane, and he takes off, and he starts, explaining the controls and the plane and the safety part and the seat belts and all that. And then, and as he went higher and higher and higher and higher, and he says, hey, you know what changed my life? You know what really changed my life? This view. This view. Very few human beings get to have this view. And if I could just, anyone who has a little opening, would love to show them this view. This belongs to us. Belongs to all of us. And how the perspective on the earth is so small. And yet you can still stand in a valley or climb a mountain, and yet it can still be very small. But somehow it's somehow flying with the birds, or somehow it's gliding with the clouds. What it just does, magic to your feelings, magic to your words, magic to your perspective. This I want to share with you. What a beauty, this man. What a beauty. Man. So much space that there was nothing but hope. Just give it time. If it doesn't work out, get up and just do it again. My first view of an astronaut's perspective, actually. For this man had helped to guide me along the way. A beautiful teacher he was. An astronaut's perspective. So somehow it activates the sensations. That perspective can be altered with different place and in different time. And somehow what was in the bones somehow was easily released. The wisdom was easily more released above than it was below. For the conditioning of feeling the same gravitational pull at my feet, holding me in a certain stance, whether I'm running, dancing, walking, or lying down. Somehow my body had developed a complacency to the gravitational pull, somehow keeping locked in. But when you're above, there's some magic to it. For the wisdom of all the ages somehow is easily released, a little bit lighter. And then one really wonders what it really is to pass away. When the smoke is really released from the bones, and the smoke rises, and one becomes the clouds. One becomes the atmosphere. So you see, the bones still go with you. And you are who you are. And who you are today, and most likely you're going to be tomorrow. And who you are here, most likely you're going to be above. For the nature of time, it takes time to be the age of 7. It took 7 long years. Very important years. It took 16 years for you to be 16. 16 long years. Your bones know that. Your body knows that. But you forgot it. And after another birthday candle and another birthday candle, and pretty soon the 20s and the 30s have elapsed so easily, so quickly. And all you had to do was just blink a few times. So easily. And yet, very few people, they put enough thought through all history of humanity, very few human beings thought of flying like the birds. For most kept their eyes to the ground. Survival was a key factor. And yet throughout history there were always those that looked up and wondered what was it like to fly. To fly high, to feel high, to think high, and to be high. And not just content with survival, the cold and the heat, the germs, the viruses, the miscommunication, having to build, having to walk, having to wait in line, having to be hungry, having to search for food, having to settle arguments, contracts, and do business, raise families, make mistakes, and have lots of fun. And yet today, it literally took humanity billions and billions of years to finally break outside this bubble of this atmosphere, literally break out of the bubble. No longer in an atmosphere of oxygen and nitrogen, but there is no atmosphere. You could say the mystic had finally walked into the mystic itself. Empty space. No time, no distance. And then to look from that perspective. There's no earth to stand on. There's no light to reflect on. And to see nothing but reflected light bouncing off the earth that is emanating from the sun. But at night, the beauty of the night, it finally reveals a species that has somehow collected themselves after hundreds and hundreds of millions of years, invented a light bulb, and put so many lights together in such a given area that from way up above, hundreds and hundreds of miles above the planet, outside the bubble, to see a species that somehow developed some intelligence, to see lights, the European lights, the lights of Asia, the lights of Americas, that there's some intelligence down there. Somehow you could say almost in competition with the light of the sun. To keep the light going 24 hours a day and not just turn it off. And somehow that really tells the mind that one can actually keep the mind alive, alert, and awake 24 hours a day, even though you are lying down, sleeping, and yet you're not. For that is really what it is to be awake. For the mind never truly sleeps, nor the heart, only the body. To be more than just what you were taught to be. To fly with the birds, to fly now with the aluminum birds, but to fly with peace in your heart and peace in your mind, belonging to no club. You need no club. For the biggest club of all is that you have skin of human. What more of a club do you want? You want a thicker skin? No problem. Life says, just give me time, I will thicken the bark. For life can thicken your skin so much that no one can touch you, no one can offend you, no one can hurt you, no one will kiss you, no one will befriend you. Life says, just give me time, and it will be so. You want thinner skin? No problem. Just give me time, life says. You want skin cancer? No problem. You want to bleed easily? No problem. You want to be very, very pale? No problem. You want to be too delicate? No problem. And yet somehow there's a balance, and yet somehow there's a fulcrum, and yet somehow there's that balance scale. A little too much food or not enough. Not enough vitamin B. Not enough chromium. Or maybe too much. Maybe I speak too much, or maybe not enough. Maybe I didn't make that phone call. Maybe I should have. Maybe I didn't say that one last word. Or maybe I just confused you. For the fulcrum of existence, it is always there, that razor's edge, that very fine line. For we draw the line with our friends, we draw the line with our mind, we draw the line with our heart. And we will paint it black or red. We will paint it blue. And sometimes it is of lead, of pencil. And sometimes we are so lost we have no idea where the fulcrum is anymore. A very fine line. And one can easily walk on a razor's edge and never get off. But you have to learn to respect the moments of life. Learn to respect the day and the evening, the second and the hour. Learn to respect what is very bad and really what is very good. For without spontaneity, who are you? A car that when you turn the wheel to the right, you will turn to the right. And how we try to do that, to control our friends, control our kids, control ourselves. And then we have a little pride that this is what I did. We are not a car, we are not a number. We're flowing rivers. We are storms. We are atmospheres that can be very quiet. We can sing and we can yell. We can get very angry and we can laugh. And to be all this, to be the spontaneity of it all, for that's what a human is. and not to be ashamed, and not to run from it. To be my mistakes, to be my failures, and to be my successes, and not to be ashamed. Then, and then, and then, and then, and then, and only then, the dragons, the lions, the demons, the sewer ghouls, and all the nastiness all of a sudden, like putting fire to a piece of wood, turns into smoke. No longer plagued by inappropriate fear. No longer plagued by the darkness and the demons inside. Respect has been brought back into its proper place. Respect now I have in my bones. For that is one of the knock on the door that releases the wisdom of all the ages, is the respect for all that there is, whether you dislike it or hate it or don't understand it. For it takes a certain tap to knock on that door. It takes a certain tap to knock on your bones. Like a tap of a child, a tap of innocence, a tap of respect. It is the vibration and that very natural force that releases it from its bones. Quite magic, it is. For it is magic that you are here, it is magic that you exist. Quite magical we are. So when you knock on your door, you knock on someone else's door, notice how you walk to the door and notice how you knock. And how do you knock to yourself when you speak to yourself? How? You knock with criticism. You knock seeking the weaknesses. How? There are many doors to knock on. There are many doors to experiment on. There are many doors to practice on. That's what doors are for. And you got plenty of days, most of you, to practice. As you knock on a door, surely you knock on your own door. As you speak to another, surely you speak to yourself. To walk out of this predicament of yours. Be wise with your life and do not expect anybody to understand you. Do not expect anybody to listen to you. But another major ingredient that releases the wisdom of all the ages from your bones is for you to try to listen to everybody else. And you try to understand everybody else. And that in itself is what releases the gravity pull from your heart and from your mind and lets you be, like you could say, rise up higher and higher to get that astronaut's view. Without a jet, without a propeller, without a motor, without a hot air balloon, without a wind, one can see higher and higher. Let's take a break.